Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 2 For the Love of Parks. This wonderful show brings Pittsburgh's parks to life through stories, voices, and hidden moments that make our green spaces in this city so very special. Each episode explores the people, the history, and the everyday joys that show why green spaces matter so much to Pittsburgh and beyond. I'm your host, Natalie Bensavanga, and today I am taking you behind the scenes with Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy horticulturists who maintain our gardens and our green spaces. So let's explore what it takes to keep our parks blooming all year round, from seasonal plantings and native species to battling non-native plants. With me today are Angela Yulee, she is a horticulturist, and Jackie Brucci, horticulture project manager. Thank you so much for both being here.
Hi, Natalie.
Hello.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
We're really excited to be here.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to have you both. So before we dive into all things parks and flowers, let's talk a little bit about your passion for horticulture. How did you both find your way into this space, into this industry?
Well, I guess you could say I've loved plants since I was knee-high to a grasshopper.
A perfect analogy.
I was just a little girl, and I've got to credit my family and my grandpa. I spent a lot of time with my grandparents as a kid, and my grandpa just lived on a little eighth of an acre, but he packed it with apple trees and grapevines and all kinds of things, and it was so special for me to spend time with them because I'd help my grandpa pick and peel the apples, and before you know it, my grandma would have them made into a pie. So, I mean, it was just very natural for me to continue into a field of horticulture and gardening.
It could have gone the other way. You could have gone into baking.
Well, there you go. That's true.
But I think the Parks is very happy that you chose this line of work instead.
Yes.
Jackie, what about you?
Well, I wasn't always in the gardens, but I was always outside doing something, just with sports. And even in my home movies, I'm just always covered in dirt. So I've been a couple different areas and done a couple different things, but eventually landed in the parks.
That's awesome. I'll add my own little anecdotal story. I do not have a green thumb, you guys, at all. So I'm hoping to pick up some tips because my grandmother, she grew up in Iowa, and we used to joke that 20% of the Earth's oxygen came from her backyard because she touched anything and it just bloomed. So I'm just so excited and honored to have you both here today to share your knowledge and your wisdom and the things that keep you on your toes, because I'm sure no matter how much you know, there's always more to learn. So let's talk a little bit about what a day at the parks really looks like during peak season. So what are we doing? What are we handling? What's happening at the parks?
So much, Natalie. We're always busy. I mean, not only are we caring for the plants, but we're also ambassadors for the park too. So, when people don't see us there, or we're on vacation or something, they go, "Oh, where have you been?" So we're also fostering not only the plants but the relationships in the park and being ambassadors. But yeah, I'm one of the early birds. I like to get up before the crack of dawn.
Oh my gosh.
Get out there, get going, because as the day wears on, there are more people in the park, and of course the gardens. There are benches and fountains, and people want to be in the gardens. So it's a little difficult sometimes to work around them. So I try to get in there early. You don't want to be intruding on people's peaceful moments in the park. So I guess I've just said most of my days spent talking.
Talking and pulling weeds, apparently.
Yeah, but I do get some gardening done in there. Yeah.
That sounds like it. So that's for peak season. That's when we're really talking about when everything's in bloom, right? Or when it's about to be. Right. But as we move into off-peak, I think people might say, oh, well, there's not much going on, right? Everything's covered in snow or there's dead leaves everywhere. But Jackie, what are you guys doing during the colder months?
So that's when we put our ecological hats on.
Okay.
And we get into the woodlands and we remove invasive species. We go after woody invasives, we go after invasive vines, and we do a lot of our tree pruning. In the winter, you can see the whole skeleton of the tree, and you can determine where you want to prune and have good developmental pruning. And it's a really great time to just kind of take stock of what's done well over the winter. We do try to take garden notes throughout the season just to pass that knowledge on to maybe someone else that's taking care of the garden that doesn't have that day-to-day experience.
I mean, this must be such a huge undertaking because there are so many incredible parks. And I know it's probably like picking a favorite child, but we won't tell the parks which one you picked, okay? But if you had to pick a favorite green space in the city, which one do you just love just a little bit more than the others?
Oh, well, my answer right away is Highland Park
She
Entry
didn't
Garden.
even hesitate. She's like, I'll tell you. I'll tell you.
knows.
Yeah.
What is it about Highland Park that you love so much?
Well, the scale of it, it's really large and magnificent. The fountain in the center just is your focal point, and then the gardens just really accent that. There are lots of paths in the garden, and they're flat, so a lot of times you'll see little kids learning how to ride their bike for the first time. Elderly people who might have walkers and wheelchairs can get around that space, and the beds are right next to each path, so they can really engage with the flowers, and then there's so many. We were talking about the different plants. There are so many native plants in there, so we've got a lot of pollinators, birds and butterflies. A lot of what we plant in there is to foster the smaller critters, the butterflies, the birds, the bees, give them a food source.
I love that. Jackie, what about you?
I would say I'm always Miss Shenley. I've taken care of Shenley Park Garden since I started, so those always
You get like
have,
a sash and everything, Miss
I
Shenley.
should have a sash, of
Little
Miss
flower
Shenley.
crown.
Yeah, pick some of the garden flowers and have that. But I would say probably Shenley Plaza is my favorite. It does have a lot of really nice amenities. Water fountain, bathrooms. Those are like the nicest things when you work in a garden, is being able to fill up your water bottle and go to the bathroom somewhere. But the gardens are really great. There's huge ground cover beds. There's little pollinator beds. There are beds of all different shapes and sizes there.
But each garden has its own personality, and each park does too. So, we have the wonderful Chapel Shelter in Riverview Park, which people love to rent and use for their special occasions. I can only imagine how many people have that in the background of their picture because they had a special day there. We also have the very interesting and modern style of Mellon Square downtown. We also have neighborhood parks like August Wilson Park and the McKinley Parks. Just places where people of those neighborhoods can go and just enjoy a little bit of green space. And then another one of my favorites is the Mellon Park Walled Garden.
Beautiful.
So beautiful. What's left of the garden of the Mellon Estate, and the garden was built in the 1920s. So you have that really cool historical element to a lot of the gardens too. And then Miss Shenley's Westinghouse Pond, you can go there. And
so fun. They put in a new fountain. It's beautiful, and the water's just so clear, and so many beautiful plants around there. I've been really trying to foster a lot of native plants there to help with there's always frogs there and turtles and fish. It's so cool.
Well, what I love about hearing all of these things, one is your enthusiasm and your clear passion, because I have a hard time deciding which park is my favorite, because I love parks in different ways for different reasons, right? I think Highland Park is so nice because you get that opportunity of sort of seeing all of the flowers in bloom, and then the reservoir's right there too. You can take a walk around that. And if you're talking about Shenley, I mean, I love sitting up at the overlook and having a picnic and then strolling. And I love Frick if I really want like a little more of a trail and I can really get in there and go for a walk with a friend and have a coffee. What I find really fascinating about all the things you shared, and we're actually going to talk about this in an upcoming episode, is the accessibility factor. And I think that's really important, that there is a park for everyone. And no matter how you get around or what your experience is, you're able to experience these parks. Why is it so important for you guys that everyone has an opportunity to enjoy these parks in the ways that you both clearly do?
Well, we work so hard to keep them pretty for you folks. So get out there and see our pretty flowers, right? And see Jackie's frogs and turtles at Westinghouse Pond.
Absolutely. Well, you get so excited talking about these spaces, but if you see or encounter someone that can't go there, it's really disheartening that they can't access that or have that accessibility. It's really great to include everybody when you're thinking about the parks.
And let's talk a little bit about, it's not just a pretty face, okay, these parks, to your point. There is a real ecological strategy here to help make these gardens accessible, to make them flourish, to make them a safe place for all the little critters. Can you each share a little bit about what that looks like in your day-to-day? How do you work towards that part of it?
So recently I was working in Highland Park and I saw 3 monarch caterpillars, and I've been looking for them all summer, and they were kind of late to the game, but they were at least there because I've seen their parents flying around. We have a beautiful plant called phlox, which the pollinators love because it's got so much nectar in it, and butterflies love it. So I saw the monarch adults. I've been waiting and anticipating to see the caterpillars, and finally spotted a few. Also, around this time of year, you see the purple coneflower. It's going to seed, and so you'll start to see these beautiful little yellow finches. They devour, love, feast on the purple coneflower seeds. So something that people can even do in their own yard. They're kind of brown. They're not so pretty looking, but when you see a beautiful little goldfinch perched on it, it's like, oh, wow, that's so beautiful. So getting that ecological restoration aspect in the gardens is very important to foster all those little critters.
Absolutely, because it really is like a family in some way, right? So what's your experience like when we're talking about that ecological restoration?
So one of the things that I try to do is just, like Angela was saying, leave things just to be standing over the winter season and trying to break that stigma of everything looking messy. You want to have somewhere where the birds and all the butterflies can go and overwinter in all of that debris. So leaving stuff over this winter is one of the things that we try to do for ecological benefits, and trying to fill in the spaces in the soil so you don't have any bare soil. Not only does that increase dehydration into the plants, but it just makes more work for you. So you're just constantly weeding. But if you have something green growing in that living mulch area, you're not weeding so much. So those are a couple things that I try to do to, foster all of those lovely little insects.
So let's sort of piggyback off of that a little bit. What is it that people may not understand then about maintaining a public garden, to your point? Because they may say, oh, this is kind of messy. Is this supposed to be messy? But you're saying yes, and there's got to be other things that people may not realize.
Well, the biggest thing I think is you have to remember you need some patience sometimes with these late blooming flowers.
Okay, fair enough.
I know looking at the asters, it's not really much to look at, but in a couple weeks, everything will be blooming, and that will help to get those late blooming feeding sessions for the butterflies and bees.
Wonderful. And for you, Angela, is there a moment where you looked around the garden and you thought, oh, I feel so proud. I feel so much pride in this moment about something that you saw over the course of weeks or months, or a group effort, or something that you yourself did?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, whenever they start to bloom in May, we start to get full bloom. I just love looking at the garden, and sometimes I stand back and go, wow, I can't believe this is my office.
Aw, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Are there things that you guys decide to plant every single year? Like, do you come to the table and say, okay, these are the things that we should make sure are here, or these are new things that we'd like to introduce? Or how do you come to a consensus about how the garden is supposed to, quote unquote, look?
Well, there's a lot of factors that play into it. So you could have a plant that's been thriving for years, but for various reasons, animals nibbling on it, insect problems, that plant's just not a strong performer anymore. And there are, in the horticultural industry, they're always improving plants, coming up with better disease resistance, coming up with plants that might be a little bit shorter, better for garden purposes, or a little bit taller, sturdier stems so they're not flopping over. So we try to stay current with, some of the trends and some of the better cultivars that are on the market, and change them out as needed. But we have a lot of great standbys that we use in many of the gardens, such as a Salvia May Night. It's a long bloomer. We can cut it back and it will keep blooming for the whole season.
Wow.
So we also like trade plants with each other too. So if I'm having success with a perennial, I'll mention to Jackie or our other gardener Maggie that, oh, hey, I have an excessive amount of this. It's doing really well for me. If you'd like me to split it, and you guys can give it a try too. So we're always like sharing information with each other as well, as what's doing good in our gardens. And then I also share information if something's not performing well. I try to let them know, hey, I haven't had success with this. I'm going to get rid of it and maybe just try something new.
So yeah, and each garden has a little bit of a different microclimate too. That maybe something's doing well in your garden, but not her garden. And to improve the vigor of a lot of plants, you want to be dividing every couple of years to like kind of keep that fresh stock of the root.
So as we're wrapping up, I feel like you guys gave such a great overview of the experience of working in these green spaces. For people that are trying, like myself, to have a tiny little green space of their own, what are a couple of tips that you could each recommend for how to kind of get this process starting so you could have your own little mini moments of a Pittsburgh park right in your own backyard?
Well, I mean, it really depends on your aesthetic, what you prefer. If you have a small yard, plants that are in Highland Park will not do well for you. They're just too big. So you might want to check out a garden like the Mellon Park Wild Garden, where we have plants that are a little bit smaller. So it depends on which park you go to where you can find some inspiration. Because if you try to plant some of the large plants at Highland Park in a tiny little garden, you might be disappointed.
It's going to take everything over. Yeah.
That's a good tip.
Yeah.
How about you, Jackie?
Having a nice mulch layer to help with all of the weeds that you might have, and really learning what's in your garden. But probably the biggest thing that you don't want to hear is when you come to a new garden, don't automatically throw a ton of plants in there. Kind of see what's coming up, see what kind of indications you might have in the soil before you just throw things on top of each other. Because you could have some really nice perennials in there that you just don't know about.
There's been some controversy online on social media around should you rake your leaves up? And some people say you shouldn't because it's actually good for the soil, and putting them in bags is just not good for the environment, and throwing them in a landfill. Do you guys have any specific strong feelings about when you see the leaves starting to fall in the gardens? Do you make a point of collecting them all right away, or do you kind of let nature take its course?
Well, I feel like that's a really tough question because you don't know what the growing conditions are. Or say, in a lot of gardens I take care of are more urban, like the Shenley Park Visitor Center and the Shenley Plaza. Those areas are maybe not areas that I can always keep the leaves. So it's something that we have been trying to do to keep leaves just on the ground. But, sometimes there are, especially in urban areas, there's a lot of wind that comes. So you feel like you're going to have those leaves there, and you come the next day and they're gone. So I have been trying some mulching of leaves to see if that would help. Now, could be some controversy there because there are little critters in that mulched leaves, but that at least helps break the leaves down even further so they can decompose faster. So it really just depends on what your hardscape is like, how big your beds are. At Highland Park, she can maybe leave more leaves because those beds are so large. But at the Shenley Plaza, some of the beds are only like 20 inches around.
Right.
And that's a lot of leaves that would have to be there.
Yeah, and it depends. Leaves have different characteristics too. For instance, sugar maple leaves, they're really thin, and as they dehydrate, they curl up and they lock together. So those will tend to stay in your bed a little bit better, whereas an oak leaf tends to be thicker and flat, and they don't always pack together. So those will be the ones that end up blowing around. So it really, you kind of have to look at your leaf characteristics. Also, say like birch leaves and locust leaves are really small. They're tiny, so they pack together really good too, and they're little, so you can leaf blow them into your beds a lot easier. Again, and then it depends on if you've left any stems up in your garden, because those stems sort of act like a comb or a brush, and they'll kind of hold things like your brush kind of holds your hair.
My gosh.
Those stems and sticks will kind of hold the leaves and keep them in the bed, which, as Jackie mentioned, it's good to leave those sticks up in the winter because insect can crawl into those hollow stems and overwinter. But it depends on your aesthetic. Like Jackie said, your landscaping, your neighbors, like, are your neighbors going to be complaining about the leaves? and maybe you don't, maybe you split the difference somewhere. Maybe you leave some leaves and then you bag some other leaves up.
Okay, so basically we have to put this to rest in the sense that social media cannot be trusted. Only the Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy horticulturists must be trusted on this issue, because this is a complex answer for a complicated question.
Yeah.
Oh, I appreciate you both so much. We could probably do a whole show just on the leaves. And
yeah.
you know?
You never knew so much information about leaves.
I never knew, but this is all really exciting. Thank you both so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
We appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us. And
Absolutely.
hope people enjoyed some of our little secrets.
Oh, they definitely did. I know I did. And if you have any thoughts or questions, you can share with us via email, and we may just have our incredible experts answer them on upcoming social media posts. I'm Natalie Bencavanga, and thank you so much to my wonderful guests and to all of you for tuning into For the Love of Parks, because there really is so much to love.